Yes, here we are. It's another Techno Tuesday. Let's shut that noise off. Let me just say hello to everyone. Welcome. I'm here in my living room again, as usual. A little different vantage point, switch some things around. Got a different mic. Hopefully sounds okay. I see a couple of people in here in the chat already that I recognize that are good old friends. Serotonin Records. I believe that must be Jason Shostak. Hey, nice to see you here. Thanks for coming down. Andrew Duke again. Welcome back. So I am here again with our good friend Thomas. Also 343 Labs. He's our 343 TV wingman.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
And
excited for hopefully extremely smooth stream today. John's got some upgrades for us.
We'll see. I figured out something interesting. I'll bet you Mr. Serotonin Jason here will have some ideas about why this might be. I had a terrible a lot of dropouts, a lot of packet loss on my very fast internet connection, which was causing, in the past there was some glitching of the video and some dropouts, and I'm now running through a VPN and it is rock solid, and I'm doing higher resolution and higher frame rate, and it's just, I have a new PC too, but that isn't the problem because the new PC is powerful, but the packet loss was network related. So I'm happy now. This looks, it looks so far, cross your fingers, this is going to be the way it's going to stay like this, and we're going to have a good, nice broadcast. So anyway, happy about that. And hey, Robot Dharma, you're still hungover from 808 day. That's a good one.
Definitely.
Little too much saturation on the sub. I don't know. And I see Jason's already plugging our or his live stream on Sunday. That's Schmur, right? It's going to be some live techno streaming going on. I'm definitely going to check that out. Hopefully you all will as well. Jason, feel free to copy a link to that. I give you my blessing. Promote Serotonin all you want, and Schmur, because it's good. Everybody, check out Schmur. Anyway, today's a little free form. I don't have a set kind of, well, sort of have a little idea of a subject, but mainly I wanted to, since this is kind of the last one before we take a break, I think, Thomas, isn't it that 343 Labs, 343 TV is kind of for the rest of August? We're kind of toning it down before we sort of reset in the fall with some new content?
Yeah, we're going to be continuing on for a couple more weeks, I think, trying to keep some content going, but we are going to be taking a brief break and then coming back really strong at some point in September. We'll obviously keep everybody updated with all the details, but it's definitely here to stay. We'll have a short intermission, and then we'll be back with lots of new stuff for everybody.
Yeah, and we'll see. I may have some kind of new format or some idea. Possibly a different day. Might not be Techno Tuesday anymore. We shall see. Yeah. We're in the planning stages. So, all right. So we're here. It's Techno Tuesday as always. We hope for some interaction with you guys, and feel free to throw out questions, any kind of burning issues you want to address in terms of techno music production knowledge. Anything's on the table. 'Cause since I was just saying before, I don't have like a super set plan today. The one thing I have here is, let's actually switch over so you can see. Oh, that chat is big. I might have to get that chat out of the way. I had to reset up everything on the PC. So here, let's just... there we go. No more chat to get in the way of the live Ableton Live view. So I was working on this last time. I was kind of in the arranging stages of this track. You might, if you've been around for a few weeks, you might remember I started out with this groove where I was recording some hardware. I was using the Twisted Electronics Mega FM to do some kind of dirty tweaky FM pattern. And then that turned into a track, and I was getting into the arranging stages. And now I've got it pretty much fleshed out. I'm not 100% on the arrangement, but close enough that I feel like I'm in the polishing stages. There may be some editing and small changes to the structure at some point, but anyway, while I'm waiting for you guys to think about what questions you might have, let's have a listen and take a look at what's going on here so far. And I will make some of these tracks smaller so we can get a better overview of everything. We don't need to see all of these tracks. Yeah, that's good enough. All right. Oh, we're soloed. We're missing a kick drum. Everything sound okay out there?
Sounds good on my end. Definitely let us know if you have any questions in the chat, everybody.
All right. There's more. But it doesn't really do anything new after that. You know, there's a couple other little small transitional sections with the pads, and then kind of breaks down in the end. But that's most of the action right there. I don't have to do the whole 7 minutes right now. And I already had a little idea for an edit. Sometimes, you know, there's been a couple days since I worked on it. And definitely a bit of perspective, not listening to it too closely, helps make these more clear final decisions about what's working and what isn't. And I felt like one of these sections where the kick drum drops out and the pad came in seemed like this one seemed a little bit long. And you can see, yeah, this one is, you know, it repeats that phrase twice. This one, it repeats that phrase 3 times. Maybe I didn't need to go that long. So let's have a listen to that again. Yeah, I wouldn't mind if it was coming back in right about now. I don't think we need to hear it that extra time. The track is, and I'm looking for places to cut this because it is already a bit long for what I wanted. So, gonna make a cut here. I'm taking the second half of the first phrase and the first half of the second phrase. Sometimes I do that when there's automation. I try to, if I can make a cut without messing up automation by, you know, figuring out the right length and then cutting out where something repeats, where nothing is changing, or it isn't changing as much, then it's less work to fix with adjusting breakpoints once you cut them out. So anyway, it doesn't make that much of a difference here because there's not that much going on in that first part. And that's actually another thing to think about. Okay, I can cut this and make it shorter, and that'll work. If I didn't want to cut it, I would maybe look at how I can create some more contrast in that section. Like, okay, so maybe there's something missing. Maybe it's a good amount of time. Maybe I just need to do something different in that time. So, but let's start with my first gut check, and that was just a cut. That's the easy choice. So we're going to delete time, and then I got to go in and remove these breakpoints in a logical way. Yeah, I think that's all I need to do. That one's not really changing much. Anything else going on? No other automation happening there. Let's listen to this section again. Actually, I'm going to go back from before. I think that's better. It's more concise now. That's definitely, like, this kind of editing can be really beneficial. You know, if you're not just like recording live jams and live takes all the time. But even then, like, if you want to, you might jam out and record for 10 minutes and then you have to go back and decide, all right, this has to fit on a side of a record with 2 cuts. It can't be 10 minutes long. It needs to be 6. You got to go in and make these kinds of decisions. I haven't decided about what to do with that hi-hat, so let's figure that out. It was like this, where the little triplet rolly hi-hats go away. Now it works better in the extended. That works better. It's more decisive. All right, so another thought I had while I'm doing this is I've got kind of two layers here. There's the kick, and then there's what was a second kick, but now it's just a sine wave, kind of a sub, pulsing underneath. Right? Giving us that little bit of rumble. All right, and it sounds good in there. Like a little pulse underneath. But I wouldn't mind having a bit more impact when the kick drum comes back. So I'm actually going to maybe fade this out a little bit or roll off some of the subs a little bit so to thin it out. And so when it comes back, it'll feel like it's hitting a bit harder relatively. I can just try for now, just sweep up the low shelf a little bit. I don't want it to go away completely. I just want to lighten it up. So, oh, wrong channel. There we go. And I pretty much just have to get it up a little bit past 50 hertz because that's about where that hum is. Yeah, and we're just hearing the noise from the reverb now. So the atmosphere's still there. Yep, that'll do. I think that'll make a bit of a difference. And then I'm going to fade the hi-hat out a little bit. I mean, really subtle, but just a tiny little change like that for me. I noticed those things. Right, let's check back in with the chat and see if anybody's actually said anything about what I'm doing. Sounds good. Thanks, Andrew. Hi, Lie Society. Afternoon. T4 Trouble, welcome. Paul Vanderwerf. Everyone needs a holiday. Don't we all? Although, in a way, it's been on some kind of twisted holiday from hell since March for me. Like, I've just been like, disconnected somehow. Doing stuff like this and hanging out with you guys every week or every other week or so is actually, I really enjoy this now. Like, this is grounding, having these kind of interactions. So thanks for hanging out with me. This is definitely helping. So yeah, please let me just remind all of you any questions you might have. And I'm going to wake up Thomas. It looked like you were sleeping there for a second. How you doing?
Sorry, just keeping an eye on the chat. I'm doing good, man. Yeah, it seems like we've gotten a good increase of viewership since we started out, which is awesome. Shout out to Nathan there in the chat. Got Lie Society who joined in. But yeah, as John mentioned, keep the questions coming. We're kind of breaking down this tune, which is been something I think has been mostly composed during the stream, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. I mean, I did some work offline, obviously, but this pretty much started, it was just a loop. And we've gone from, where I started to, I did a lot. I didn't do a lot of the arrangement in front of everybody, but I've been checking in with this and showing the progress. And now we're like kind of I'm in the final stages. I mean, okay, final is relative because what is this going to come out? Is it going to get cut on vinyl? Is anyone going to are any DJs going to play this anywhere? Like, it's all academic at this point. But I just I'm at the point where I'm like making some final arrangement decisions, and then also, I've begun the mixing process. I think it's almost there, and at this
Yep.
point, it's little details. Like this is beyond a rough mix, but it's not 100%. And for this kind of music, I mean, if you're thinking of this is like music made for a DJ playing on a big sound system to a lot of people, hopefully, or like in a club. If it's not too, I mean, this one's kind of in between. It's pretty banging and with the kick and the groove, but it also has this melodic, musical, atmospheric kind of smoothness to it. So I really like techno like that, actually.
Yeah, it sounds great.
It's futuristic and it's driving, but it's also got a smooth, hypnotic element to it. And
Definitely.
there's some harmony in there. I've tried to make some kind of little intricate harmony with the parts in there. And
Would you say that this represents like your workflow outside of streaming a good amount, or would you say it's been a different, being involved on stream?
no, I think this is pretty much how I do it. Especially with this, with this track, this style of techno. I usually start by jamming around with a synth and try to make some distinctive pattern and groove, and then build from there.
You heard it. You heard it here first, guys. John Selway's giving away his tricks.
There's no tricks here.
We did get a couple of questions that just came in. So one was, I don't know how much capacity you have to show this off now, but somebody's wondering what are the hardware boxes that are in front of you.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you should put the link in there for the previous shows where I had my other camera on, and I was, it's not powered on and plugged in right now, but I will just lift it up and show you the hardware that I used for this.
Cool. Let's switch over to the other scene if possible.
Yeah, you're right. Thanks for reminding me, because I need a stream deck. I got my OBS on another computer over behind me, so I got to turn around and look at it.
Yeah, no, we'll be good.
All right, so is that better?
Yep. So this was the piece you actually used for this track, correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 layers of it. Let me solo it.
Cool.
Everybody hear that? Yeah, so there's basically, kind of started out as a plucky 16-note bass pattern, but it's more than that. It's kind of bass/lead, and I wanted to brighten it up a bit, so I recorded a second one tuned up higher with slightly different tone. So yeah, that's what the Mega FM is doing. I like this thing.
Cool.
It's got character. FM synths with character. That's most FM synths sound like FM synths. This has its own thing, which it's unique, and I like it. I'm glad I got it. Of course,
Definitely.
Something like the Digitone, that also has a different character than, say, like a typical like Yamaha FM synth. It's sort of darker and warmer, and I think because of the filters and the signal path and the saturation.
Yep.
But I like that one too.
Cool. So a couple other quick things that came in. Somebody's asking, do you send it out for more mixing after you are done with your rough mix?
Usually no. I'm at this point confident enough to do the mix. And actually, I was sort of starting to get to that a minute ago when I was talking about sort of the mix is not 100%, but it's so close. It's like, it's probably good enough. But with this kind of music, you don't know until you hear it in the real. I mean, you kind of know after some experience. If you do this enough, you know how to mix, so it's going to sound a certain way. But you don't really know if, like, is the kick loud enough? Is there some weird phasing? Like, is the rumble at the especially the bass is crucial to test it out.
Do you think hearing it live, like live in an event, like a club,
that is the
kind of
ultimate test. If it sounds awesome and rocks in a DJ set in the context that it was designed to sound good in, that's what matters the most. And
Gotcha.
you don't have to have that opportunity to make a good mix. Obviously, a good mix is a good mix, but as a DJ, I know I've played plenty of tracks, especially back in the older days on just only on vinyl, and most people didn't have amazing polished sounding you know, it was raw. All this underground techno stuff was raw and low budget and a few pieces of gear and overdriving the gains on a Mackie mixer, like stuff like that. A lot of people were
Definitely.
making tracks like that and, you know, recording really like fairly low quality, but they still were banging, right? So it's, you don't, your mix doesn't have to be perfectly polished and shiny and wide and super pro perfect mastered to work as a, especially when it's more underground kind of raw sounding stuff. It sometimes, you know, I'd put a needle on a record now and I'd listen to a track I played from the 90s and go, that sounds terrible. It's distorted and it's crunchy and it's mastered poorly. But then I know I played that out in a DJ set and it rocked anyway. So
Yeah.
that's why it's the
Very
ultimate
interesting.
test. If you're making music for a big sound system for people to dance to, if it works there, even if it sounds bad on your iPod, it's good.
Gotcha. And speaking of mastering, quick, is mastering something you do yourself or no?
Just for demo.
Okay, gotcha.
And I mean, I'm doing it right now.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not, but I've got a limiter on it and a compressor, so it's not really mastered.
Hmm.
But since the mix is like it's like 90 something percent, I think. I'm
Gotcha.
listening to it compressed and loud as though it were mastered, and I'm not going to make too many adjustments to it while the limiter's on. So, yeah, but it's more exciting and more fun, and it also sounds cooler for you guys out there if it's like, you know, sort of mastered. But I do like a kind of a demo master, like just a tiny bit of EQ and a little bit of compression, and then just enough of a limiting, you know, gain boost to like make it sound loud enough to make sense when it's played with other tracks that are mastered.
Gotcha.
But I could do mastering, but I prefer to hand that over to a pro who's got, like a mastering pro who's got the right monitoring setup, who knows his sound, who knows his room, who knows his gear, and has the objectivity to make those decisions in a way that, you know, my judgment would be clouded.
Yeah, I've heard that same thing from a few of the other instructors at the school and other, you know, producers who are taking on the mixing role themselves. Having that outside perspective in the mastering seems to be, you know, a smart move still.
Yeah, it's valuable to get that. It's worth paying for, I think, to have someone who's got a good amount of experience and trained ears give you another perspective on your work. So
Definitely.
cool. Since we're talking about mixing so much, I guess we can look at that a little bit. I'm actually trying out some new plugins. This is another little thing that I thought I could talk about it if it came up. And these are kind of well-known plugins, but I've never used them before. I'm usually kind of a minimalist. Like I'll just use whatever I've got, and like, you know, native live EQ for me is fine, especially when the oversampling mode is off. It sounds good enough. You don't have to like get every Fab Filter plugin and every whatever, you know, every fancy third-party VST awesome mixing plugin to make a good mix. You really don't. It's your ears and your experience that is most important, and how to use the tool, not the tool itself. I think but that said, there are some really cool tools out there that, if you know what you're doing, can help a lot. And this track has a lot of resonance. It's got a lot of mid-range peaks, especially the operator. You know, so I've got two kinds of FM synths here. I've got the warmer, dirtier Mega FM recorded from hardware, and then I've got this more melodic, actually it's stacked of chords, but this thing. And it's really bright and ringy, and it changes a lot. It goes from being percussive like this to more full and long, and you know, you can see from the automation kind of how it's playing around here. All right, so it kind of did that.
Sounds really sweet.
It did that sort of full, more ringing kind of sound, and now it's doing more noisy and short and percussive.
Nice. Let's just hop back into Ableton scene.
Oh, right, thanks. See, I have to have you here. I'm just too much of an absent-minded professor kind of a guy to...
What parameter were you were automating just there, or is it
lots of them?
things?
Yeah, well, you can... I'll zoom in right here. We've got the levels, you know, it's FM, and the levels of the modulators is everything, right? Like how much C's modulating B's modulating A's, what's making it brighter, darker, and you're hearing different overtones. And then that's running through a filter, which is, then that's taking away and bringing back brightness to the sound. And then I'm also, operator has this nice time macro, which changes the times of the envelopes and the LFOs all at the same time. So yeah, I can make the whole sound shorter or longer. I mean, that's what's happening here. All right, that's sounding really, really pretty there, isn't it? So that's being automated. And so what's happening is it'll get brighter and then get noisier. And then at the same time, I'll make the envelopes shorter so it starts to sound more percussive. And then when it gets darker and smoother, I'll make the envelopes longer so it sounds more sort of harmonic, if that makes sense. And then the filter's doing the overall brightness of the sound. And then there's one section where I transpose the whole pattern down an octave. Where did it go? There it is. Yeah. I could have transposed the MIDI, but it was easier to just turn a knob. And now it's a little bit darker in that section. So anyway, yeah, that's what's being automated. But to get back to the mixing thing, it's a moving target. Like I could EQ this and then set it for, if it's too bright, I pull back the highs, and then it goes to a part where it's not bright, and then I've pulled back too much high. And there's different ways to handle this. You could use multi-band compression to just reduce the frequencies a little bit too much. And I think I might even have one in here. Yeah. So, I'm using Live's multi-band, and it's a lot of mids. You can see there's a lot there, not a lot of, I actually boosted the highs a little bit here to make it a little more sparkly. And that really thins it out if I bring down that mid-range band. All right. So that works. That's one way to do it. And I also do have kind of a static EQ setup here. And it's mid-side, just to kind of make it a little wider and get it out of the way of other elements that are more in the middle. And it's subtle. And then I have this new thing. This is an expensive plugin. This is just a demo. I haven't decided whether I'm going to buy it yet. This is Soothe 2. And let's hope it seems to be a bit CPU hungry, so hopefully my computer will comply. But this is kind of it's not a I'm not exactly sure how to describe it. It's not a multi-band compressor. And it's not exactly a dynamic EQ either, or it's something like that. We'd have to go look at the website and just check out some YouTube review on it if you want to know these details. But basically, what it's doing is it's identifying these resonant peaks and very, very precisely smoothing them all out dynamically. And just a little bit of this helps it sit in the mix and get out of the way of other things in a way, right? Because there's a couple of spots where it gets really, really bright. And doing this is kind of like, one of the things that mastering engineers do to a finished mix is to take away resonances that are too harsh, that are getting in the way and causing issues. And this is kind of doing that automatically on a track-by-track basis. You could use it on the master too. This could be a very powerful mastering device in the right hands. But anyway, yeah, so I'm trying this out on that one. It works well. I haven't committed to it yet, so I'm going to turn that off. And I also was trying it on these pads that I put in there from the Prophets. And this one, I'm on the fence. This was also very, very resonant. It's got a lot of mid-range peaks in it. And I also have, my first thought, put the multiband on there just to reduce those resonant peaks a little bit. But, sometimes with this, it does too much. It takes too much life away if you overdo it. So, then, that works. But using something like Soothe, if I put Soothe on here, it'll be even more precise about which tones are ringing too much. And it's more transparent if you use it right. It smooths it out without taking it away altogether. and it's dynamic. So like if it's not ringing at that frequency, it doesn't reduce it, and then it does, so it doesn't change its overall volume level of character too much if you use it really carefully. So I kind of like it. I don't know if I want to spend $200 on it, but it's pretty cool. Some reason, Thomas, it's really strange. My chat is not updating. I'm not seeing any new chat messages, so you're gonna have to relay to me
Okay, no worries.
any new material.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll stay on top of it. Oh, it looks like it came back here, no? In this scene?
Oh no, it's in the broadcast. I have my iPhone over here
Okay.
with the restream chat, but it's not showing me anything right now. It's lost its connection. So
Gotcha. Yep.
just wondering
I'll keep an eye on
I'm
it.
just wanted to check in with everybody, see how you're doing, and see if there are any questions before we continue.
Cool. Yeah. So we got a couple of comments really. Um, Here's one question that came in from PA to Seth, who says, "Do you send your tune to a label with all that stuff on the master?" I guess it kind of goes back to what we were talking about just before.
I think it's. I mean, it depends. I think some labels expect you to give them the finished version. As a record label person, from my perspective, I think it is the record label's responsibility to prepare an audio recording for distribution and for release. I think that's a cost of doing business for the label. I don't think labels should expect their artists to pay for their own mastering. That said, I talked about, demo or mastering earlier. It does make more of an impact if your track sounds, loud and proud and bright and clear and well balanced and competitive,
Definitely.
appropriate to your style. Then if you make a good track and it's not mastered, depending on the perspective of the person who's listening to it and considering it, like I would hope that someone with a good ear who knows what's good for their label and knows what they want to put out into the world, they're the filter between you and the release. They would be able to anyone who's good at their job would be able to tell, oh, that track's great, it just needs to be mastered. They wouldn't deny you.
Yep.
If you made a good track and they're of sound mind, they shouldn't turn you away just because you didn't have it mastered first. But I don't know if everybody's like that, if everybody's open-minded and thoughtful about that. I think some people are expecting it to be banging already.
Good, yeah.
So
Yep.
it doesn't do you any, it doesn't do it, I don't think it would harm you to demo master it yourself, or pay a low fee like one of these online mastering guys that charges 35 euros or $50 or whatever it is nowadays. I don't know. If you want to invest in having your stuff sound as good as it possibly can in your price range before you send your demos out, it might be worthwhile. Also, the benefit of that is you've got master tracks to DJ with if you're a DJ, or to give to other DJs to try it out before it gets released. Because again, that's the make or break, I think. Like if you give your demo track that's unreleased to a DJ and they're playing it, every week on their live stream, if not in the club, that's a pretty good indication that a label might want it. So
Definitely.
yeah.
Cool. So before we continue, I just want to say quickly to everybody who's tuned in, a couple more people joined. Thank you for coming by. We're on 343 TV here, which is presented by 343 Labs. I'm going to ask that you please subscribe to the channel if you haven't, because, we got a bunch of live streams happening every day. And also feel free to head over to 343labs.com, to check out some of our upcoming courses. We got John teaching some synthesis, some Ableton, a bunch of other great talented instructors offering all different types of training. So I just want to take a moment for a quick little ad break, and then I'll let you dive into the rest of the show.
Yeah, no, I think thanks for doing that. I'm a little off of the shilling today, but I will say this just to sort of reinforce a little bit about what Thomas just said, that doing this has been really like a good grounding thing for me over this whole situation we have globally, and I really enjoy doing it. And acknowledging that this is also this is a way for 343 Labs to reach out and build our community and find more students potentially. So we hope that some of you after this would be more interested if you're, thinking about signing up for an online course, or if you're in Berlin and you want to do it in real time, or even in New York. I think we might have some classes starting up on a limited capacity. But yeah, and on top of all that, like, I like to show people what I'm doing a little bit and talk about what I'm doing and share what I do. And I've always been that way since, I started producing dance music in the very late 80s, early 90s, and collaborating with people. I've always enjoyed kind of being a part of collaboration and part of sharing what I know and helping people get stuff done. And that naturally led to being an instructor for a music production school. It just fit right into how I am. And I will also put this out there, in addition to the courses that we want to sign up people for, I do occasionally take on private students, a little selective about it. Not just, I want to kind of work with people that we can relate and who are serious. So you can go through the school for that. And we do also do, private one-on-one virtually. Anyone in the world with an internet connection, we can have a one-on-one session and go over what you're working on. So, and, kind of like what I'm doing here, but with you and your work. So I just want to throw that out there as well. So that's my plug, in addition to what we do here with 343 Labs. And anyway, let's get off of that and back onto the music. Let me switch my camera here again. And I'm going to take a look at this other plugin that I'm looking at to smooth out my mix. There it is. Have you seen this one before, Thomas? Trackspacer?
It looks somewhat familiar, but I don't think I've ever actually heard it, being used live.
Yeah, this is another cool little... this has been around for a few years now. It's pretty well known. Nothing new. But
okay.
I haven't tried this one before. And yeah, it works by side chaining one track to another track. So you have you would say, let's say you have two sounds that are fighting with each other, that are kind of taking up the same frequency space. And normally you handle this with like EQ. This kind of automates the process. It's going to take the sidechain signal from whatever you want to, the element that is sort of in the way or that you want to separate, and then route that into the other instance. Anyway, I have this one set up on the group that has both of the Mega FM tracks in it. And I wanted the operator part to come out more, but not turn it up louder, because it was getting too loud, especially in the transitions where it gets fuller and brighter. So I wanted to, but I want it to be audible, but not louder, right? And okay, you can use sidechain compression for this to duck something, but again, that might take away too much. I don't want it to go away completely. Or, I want to just, any frequencies, sort of surgically frequencies that are like masking each other, I want to take those out. And so that's what this guy is doing. And in live, it's really easy, because in the instance of the plugin, you can just choose a sidechain input from anywhere. So I have the operator track routed in. And as soon as you route that signal in, Trackspacer analyzes it and applies kind of a correction to the audio that the plugin is processing. So what it's doing is there's some mid-range resonance in the thick, warmer Mega FM sound that's ducking out of the way surgically, and it's letting me hear the details of the operator melody when it's filtered down lower come out more clearly without having to turn it up. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, very interesting.
And then if I do it too much, you can hear it's like really squashed. It thins it out a lot, but it doesn't make it quiet. It's still full.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a dynamic EQ situation.
Again,
going
similar. Like, so Soothe does its special thing, and it's got some kind of crazy algorithm, and it's, you know, high tech. This, I think, is a little more simple, but it's still got some kind of way of responding to the incoming signal, and it's not just only turning down the whole level like a compressor would.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, and you know, even with a dynamic EQ, you're setting a frequency and it stays there, and it'll react or not react when that frequency goes above the threshold. Mm-hmm. This is actually reacting to the input signal and changing what frequencies are reduced in real time, and that's, you know, that's pretty cool.
Gotcha.
So anyway, so these are just some things that I'm like, this is where my head is at now. Like, I've gotten through the bulk of the creative, sort of more fun and you know, the musical creation. Now I've got my audio engineer hat, and I'm getting like under the microscope with my special tools to like sculpt a little bit. I mean, I like, this is fun for me too. This is not you know, a drag. I enjoy in this stage. Danger though is that you not get way too caught up in this, and that's kind of where I draw the line at like mastering for myself, because that's an even deeper level of mental nerd fixation, right? Like, this is already like, this kind of stuff can get in the way of you being freely creative. So I do want to make sure I've got most of the creation out of the way before I get caught up into these super nerdy details with special tools. And then I also know I got to take this with a grain of salt. I may not need to do this. This may be this is just me fooling around with new plugins. It could be that the mix is good enough and I play it out in a set, or someone plays it out in a set, and it's rocking and it's done. And it doesn't, and then it's just mastering guy, and then you're finished. Move on to the next one. So there's definitely this is like a whole gray area you don't want to get way too lost in, because it's as important as this is, it's not more important than making a good track in the first place.
Gotcha.
How are we doing on questions? I did kind of want to lean on questions as much as possible today.
Yeah, throw them into the chat. Looks like we got a couple coming in. So somebody mentioned that you can do a similar things what we got going on here with Pro Q3.
Yeah, it does. I haven't used it, but
somebody says, love this stream. Would love to see a breakdown of one of your recent Smith and Selway tracks. What's the chance of that happening?
Well, I have been talking to Christian about us doing a production stream sometime. We talked about it ages ago. He's got his schedule. I've got mine. We're in different time zones. We have families. Mm-hmm. He's been doing all this Tronic DJ streams. You know, he's got to, in his status, he's got to keep up his level somehow, right? So that is in the cards, though. So I'm glad someone asked for that. Going forward, whether how this show continues or changes, I do plan to incorporate more guests. So
awesome.
Pretty high probability that there will be a Smith and Selway stream sometime in the fall. Yeah, I think it's going to happen.
Look out for that, everybody.
And
tell your friends.
I would put. I mean, I've got Jason here, who I do Serotonin Records with. We should do like a crazy, freaky electro jam sometime, if maybe, or we've got our own. Abe Duque is a great old friend of mine, and I could do something with him again. There's all sorts of opportunities and possibilities. For those of you maybe into the harder, darker side of techno, Oliver Chesler, the horrorist, and I go way back. We used to do Disintegrator and Koenig cylinders. Gotcha. Like that could be an episode. So yeah, we have options.
Definitely. And then one other thing that just came up quick I wanted to answer is somebody's asking if the videos are available offline, which I'm assuming means not live. And they always are on our YouTube channel, 343 Labs. So feel free to go back. I know a lot of you guys are enjoying the stream today, but you can kind of go back and watch all the previous episodes that lead up to, today's show. So, it can be Techno Tuesday any day if you want it to be.
Techno Tuesday. Every day is Techno Day, right?
Yeah.
You'll notice I haven't mentioned tacos today. Oh, I just said it. I was going to not say anything. Yeah, this is the first time we haven't done any lame old dad jokes about Taco Tuesday.
I think with the new PC and all the upgrades, that just goes out the window, maybe.
I think so.
Who knows?
I think so. I think that whatever caused me to say that has been resolved. I've figured that out.
Somebody asked, just came in, what mic are you using today? That's a good question.
Oh. Yeah, I'm trying out this Octava. It's a Russian mic, and gosh, the model number has just gone straight out of my head. It's like I can't see it. Maybe we'll.
I could throw it. If you give me the link sometime, I could throw it in the comments of
Yeah,
the video.
you could do that. Do that instead of me like trying to read the side of the mic, like looking like an idiot. But it's made in Russia. It's sold by a company in Germany. It's a very high quality mic that sounds really good, but it's inexpensive. That's the. And my son's playing the violin, my daughter's playing the piano, and I wanted a good mic for doing acoustic recordings.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I'm just trying it out. It's not really designed to be like an up close, radio / podcast sort of mic, but I like how it looks and it takes up less space in the in the image. So I thought I'd give it a try today.
Nice and compact.
Yeah.
Do you? This is a quick question for me. Do you ever record anything like that for your music that you work on? This kind of electronic stuff. Anything acoustic that isn't like just a line in, a direct?
I have only a couple times. I mean, I did a lot of violin for Rancho Relaxo All Stars with Abe and Jason.
Okay.
And many others. That was quite a project we had for a long time. We do live performances, and we did a little bit in the studio, and I did a little violin. I have one very hard techno track from the 90s called Blood Strike under the name of Spy. And it has all these sweeping harmonic overtones in it for the break and at the end. And I recorded those with the violin, and this was back when I was in college. We had a Neumann mic, this beautiful mic, and I was just playing and sweeping my finger up and down the strings, playing these harmonics. And then I recorded that, sampled it, put effects on it, and then edited that and put it in the this crazy hardcore track. So
gotcha.
It doesn't sound like violin, but it came from a violin.
I'm gonna have to definitely go check that out after this. Cool.
I think we're coming up on. It's just about time. It's 1:53. Let's get back to my view here, and I'm just gonna listen to this a little bit again without geeking out too much about. Actually, let's go in the middle. I like using this Native Instruments solid bus comp. It's pretty much the same as Live's glue compressor. It's an emulation of an SSL bus compressor. I don't know why, maybe it's psychosomatic, but I like this one just slightly more somehow in terms of the tone, but it could just be my brain. Anyway, I often mix through this thing. All the latest Smith & Selway stuff actually goes through this plugin. And then I have the Live standard limiter to make it loud. And it's not pushing it up super, super loud. I mean, if you look at my meter, it's still, that's not fully mastered loudness. So I'm thinking a little bit like this demo mastering idea. Then I would usually do something like this. I mean, that's a pretty well balanced looking mix looking at the spectrum. I usually check in mid-side, look at what the stereo is doing in the low frequencies. That's something that mastering guys will always do. Is like, will often do, not always, will often cut out. Sometimes it doesn't need it. And this one, it doesn't. I'm already doing this on individual elements. I'm cutting out or reducing low frequencies on the sides, on the stereo image, in individual stereo parts before it gets to the mastering. But they still can there could be something you missed and it adds up. And this can kind of clean up your low end. And wide stereo in the subs is never a good idea. I mean, there's a million YouTube videos on other people saying the same thing. This is nothing new. So I don't necessarily have to do that, but I know for sure that it's cleaned up if I cut. You know, Live's utility does a bass mono effect, and you know the default is 120 and lower. That's another thing you could do to help tighten up the lows and keep it so that it translates well in mono or on different types of systems. And that kind of, in a way, that makes the cutting the sides of this mid side and the EQ, it's irrelevant because there is no stereo bass down there anymore. I might listen for, again, resonances, bringing down, you know, if I bring down around 100 a little, for example, that kind of can tighten up the boominess and make it seem a little warmer and deeper underneath those frequencies. But just a tiny bit. Like, you don't want to be doing a cut like that. That's destruction. That's messing your mix up. Like, -1 dB, even less sometimes. If you need to do more than that, you have to. This is another side benefit of demo mastering is, you know, making these changes. And if you feel like you need to do too much to it to make it sound the way you want, that means your mix is not done. So it's also a good reference for yourself, even if no one ever else hears this demo master. Going through that process can help you learn about things that need to change in the mix. Your track should sound like you want it to sound before it goes to a mastering engineer. Not to say it should be loud and maxed out and, you know, squashed to death. It should be dynamic, but you can still mix so that it sounds loud and full without putting a limiter on it. So, you know, I might do a little bit of that, and I'll listen to the brighter sections and like, how do the highs sound? Do I want it to be a little shinier on the very top? That's another thing you'll hear a lot. And like, people will mix and then they'll go to mastering and it'll come back and it'll be way brighter. A lot of times people undermix their highs and then the mastering engineer will shine it up by boosting above a certain amount. This again, though, don't do this extremely because you don't want to change it so much that you can't hear your mix. You don't want the demo master to change your mix so much as just sort of slightly tweak it and shine it up just slightly, but not drastically change the overall tone. And then, okay, I have the compressor on here, which I mixed through, and if I change the compressor too much, it's going to mess up the mix, kind of. So you want to, you know, if you left it on there and you mixed with it on there the whole time, don't change it. Because it's, you know, it's going to do, if I were to take this off, I mean, it actually, I've had the reverse now that I think about it. There's some times where I mixed through a compressor and then I took the compressor off and it sounded better because all of a sudden all the transients popped out. I'm like, oh, wow, that's punchy. So you can also use that as kind of a trick to give yourself a different perspective. But I'm leaving it. I want it to sound smooth and controlled. And then, you know, I can push the limiter up. You can see the RMS meter for live. It's right around -6. That's safe. It's not squashing it too much. And the kick has kind of taken over the mix, but that's the thing, you know, how loud the kick needs to be. That's the thing you don't really know how it works until you hear it loud and hear it rumbly and how much it takes, the resonance takes over in the room, that kind of stuff. But, you know, that's about what I would do. Maybe a little width enhancement, just a tiny bit. That should really be actually... Sometimes I do it this way. I sum to mono, and then I'll do another one after the compressor. So I'm not changing what the compressor's doing now, because when you increase the width, the mids and the highs get louder, and it changes the output level. It definitely will change how the signal hits the compressor. And I think actually, you know, so increasing the sides, you know, because all of the bass is centered pretty much, increasing the sides is going to make the mids and highs go up, and so it gets louder and brighter, which is again another thing that mastering guys will do. But I just want a little bit, and then adjust my limiter. Right. So that's like, for me, is demo mastering. It's just a little bit of enhancement to balance it out and to increase the level, but not drastically change how the mix sounds. I think we're out of time. It's 2:00, but I'm going to go over just a couple more minutes because I want to show you something that I also do. That this is great for all of us that don't have a perfect studio and the best monitors. It does require very good headphones to do properly. But I have an audio effect rack that I made out of some impulse responses, and these are freely downloadable. We'll put a link on the video. And I'm using Live's convolution reverb to play back my music through impulse responses of sound systems in nightclub spaces. So literally there's 2 convolution impulse responses in here. One it's a sound system called Flipside, and it's really like bass heavy. It's like big, huge cabinets in a warehouse kind of sound. And then function 1 is a much tighter, cleaner, more mid-rangey, precise, but still loud PA system in a nightclub, some nightclub in London. I don't know which one. And it emulates what your mix will sound like through PA systems in the space. Now, it's not perfect because they're recorded in empty rooms. Ideally, they'd be recorded in rooms full of people, so you know what all the absorption and how the sound changes in the room when it's got a packed dance floor. That'd be amazing. But it still gives you a really good idea. And if I throw this on, so that's the mix. It's just like you're listening through a reverb plugin, but it's specifically a sound. It's the tone of the sound system in a space. Right, so you're hearing what that music sounds like through that PA system in that space. And I also have I put in a utility so sometimes your music gets mixed down to mono, and you can hear how different it sounds when it's in mono over a PA system in that space. And you can tell it sounds more resonant and boomy, but and the hi-hat is really loud. The hi-hat's probably a little too loud. Let's try the function 1. Right, that's different. It's not as boomy. You're hearing much more detail in the mids. Let's hear that in mono. Sounds pretty good. But still, I think that closed hi-hat's a little bit too loud. So then I could go back and take it off. Remember, okay, the hi-hat was too loud. Take this effect off. Take the limiting off. It's really important that you don't do really detailed level adjustments when you're squashing the heck out of your mix on the boss. And then go and, okay, remember, I'm going to bring the hi-hat down a couple dB because it was way too loud. And then check it again. So it's a really good reference. If you can't play your music out in a big system, this is like the closest thing. So Thomas and I will make sure that we link to these impulse responses. And maybe actually I have the thought I can make my rack available for you guys to download so that you've got it all together with the macros set up and the mono switch and the switch between the different sound systems. And I don't know, I feel like that's a nice thing to leave you guys with before we take a break and start anew in the fall. So let's sign off now. Let me get Thomas back on the camera here. And I want to thank you guys. My daughter's back here somewhere. She wants to thank you guys. Say thank you, Nara. Oh, so nice, so gracious, these preteens. And anyway, let me throw it to you, Thomas, to give a little bit of a goodbye.
Sure, yeah, thanks everybody. It's been fun. This has been a really cool show. Definitely tune in for the rest of the week. We got a few more things coming up. Tomorrow we got the Logic show with Justin, which should be fun. And then we got, the regular scheduled stuff. So don't miss those. But thanks again. It's been fun. But we will be back with John with some more content soon, so look out for that. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. But that's pretty much it. Check out 343labs.com if you're interested in signing up for some courses.
Awesome. So yes, thank you once again to all. I can't see my chat in front of me, so I'm not going to call out individuals, but I appreciate every single one of you for being here and hanging out today, and looking forward to the next time. So enjoy your day, and as Thomas said, come back tomorrow for the Logic Show. Adios.